Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
So today is Monday, January 26, 2026.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to this on your commute, or maybe you're just, staring out the window with that second coffee, it probably feels like a pretty standard Monday.
Overcast, maybe. It was quiet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The world looks the same as it did yesterday. But, and this is the thing, if we trust the mountain of research we have on the desk today, that whole standard feeling is a total illusion.
It really is. The tectonic plates of the culture are shifting under our feet this morning.
In a way they haven't for a very, very long time.
It's a deceptive quiet. You know that feeling when the air pressure just drops right before a massive storm?
Yeah, everything goes still.
The birds stop singing, the wind dies down. That is, physically and metaphorically, what today represents in all the data we're looking at.
We're looking at a specific event today that hasn't happened since the 1860s.
A long time.
Today, the planet Neptune is entering Aries. Now, before half our audience rolls their eyes and the other half cheers, we need to frame this correctly. We are not here to read your horoscope.
No.
We're here to look at archetypes. We're looking at history, sociology, and a really fascinating narrative piece from our source material called When the Fog Chose Fire.
That is the key here. Whether you view planetary movements as causal, like, gravity affecting tides, or just as a really useful ancient clock for tracking human psychology, the themes are undeniable. We're moving from a long, long cycle of dissolution into a cycle of action. And the source material today, specifically from the analyst Tarot by High C, frames this shift as a foggy reboot.
Foggy reboot. I love that phrase.
That's good, isn't it?
It sounds like my brain until at least 10 or 0 am.
Uh-huh.
But our mission today is to really unpack that concept. Why do we suddenly feel this surge of bravery today?
Right.
Why does it feel like we have to burn everything down and start over right this second? And the big question, the one we're going to spend some serious time on.
The important one.
How do you tell the difference between a life mission and just, a temporary mood?
Yeah. Because confusing the two right now, it's not just embarrassing, it's actually dangerous. We're entering a period where the signal-to-noise ratio is going to be completely out of whack.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics of this.
Oh.
Neptune enters Aries. Break that down for someone who doesn't speak astrologies. What are we actually dealing with here?
Okay, think of it like a chemical reaction. You have two very volatile ingredients that don't normally go together.
Okay.
First, you have Neptune. In archetypal language, Neptune is the dreamer. It's the planet of the collective unconscious, spirituality, illusions, fog. It blurs lines.
All right.
It dissolves boundaries. It's that feeling of being in a warm bath where you kind of lose track of time.
It's the soft focus lens on the camera.
Ideally, yes. But then you have Aries.
Which is not soft focus.
Not at all. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is raw fire. It is the archetype of the god of war. It is the impulse of I am, I fight, I start. It's a battering ram.
So you're dropping a fog machine into the middle of a battlefield.
Or giving a machine gun to a dreamer who isn't wearing their glasses. That is the tension.
Wow.
Neptune in Aries is where idealism meets aggression. It's the spiritual warrior. It's the crusader. And this isn't a 2-week transit.
No.
This is a generational shift. Neptune is going to be in Aries from now until 2038.
Yeah.
We are talking about the cultural backdrop for the next 12 years.
That is huge. And you mentioned this hasn't happened in a long time.
Yeah.
The history here is, well, looking at the notes, it's heavy. When was the last time we saw this?
The last time this specific shift happened was in 1861. Specifically, the ingress happened the day after the American Civil War began.
Okay, that stops you in your tracks. The day after.
The day after. Now, we always have to say this. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes.
Right.
We aren't predicting a civil war tomorrow. But if we look at the 1860s, what was the vibe? It was a clash of ideologies. It was a time where reality itself seemed fractured. People on opposite sides weren't just disagreeing on policy or taxes. They were living in completely different moral universes. That is the Neptune fog mixed with the Aries war.
It's a dissolution of the old structure through fire.
And the violent birth of a new identity. But that birth is messy. It's confusing.
Yeah.
And the source material points out that we actually got a teaser trailer of this energy last year in 2025.
Oh, right. Between March and October.
Exactly. Neptune dipped a toe in, then it retrograded back out.
I remember that period vividly. It felt so restless. There was a lot of that, I can't do this anymore, energy floating around, people quitting jobs, public outbursts.
A lot of that. But that was just the preview. Today, the movie starts. And there's a complicating factor that makes 2026 different.
Okay.
We have a massive reality check incoming very soon.
This is the Saturn component, right?
Yes. In mid-February, so around the 20th, Saturn is also entering Aries. Now, if Neptune is the dream, Saturn is the brick wall.
Right.
Saturn is gravity, time, consequence, structure, the IRS, the laws of physics.
So we have one force saying, dream big, fight for your ideals, reality is whatever you want it to be. And then another force, 3 weeks later, saying,
Here's the bill.
here's the bill. That is the perfect way to put it.
And the source emphasizes that because of the Saturn alignment, the manifestation gap is going to close.
What do you mean by that?
Well, usually with Neptune, you can stay in a delusion for years. It's comfortable. But with Saturn involved, the results of your actions or your delusions are going to be very obvious very quickly. We just don't have the luxury of lag time.
Which brings us to the ground level. We've got the high-level astrology, the history lesson. But how does this foggy reboot actually feel to me sitting here this morning? The source describes some physical symptoms that are kind of fascinating.
It's a weird list. It talks about sleep disruptions, waking up tired but wired, vivid dreams that linger.
So you're not sure if you're actually awake yet.
Exactly. But the psychological symptom is the big one, a spike in motivation without a clear direction.
That's the all dressed up and nowhere to go feeling. Or maybe all dressed up and running full speed into a wall.
It's the urge to quit. The source notes a massive compulsion to sever ties. Quit the job, leave the marriage, move to a new country.
Change your name, delete all your social media.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's this sudden, overwhelming belief that if I just start over, if I just reboot the system, everything will be perfect.
I think we've all had that moment at 3 a.m. where we decide we're going to become a minimalist sheep farmer in New Zealand.
And usually we wake up, drink some water, and realize we hate wool, we need Wi-Fi, and we know nothing about sheep.
Right.
But under this transit, that 3 a.m. thought feels like a divine commandment. That is the danger. We feel incredibly brave. But the source warns us with a very specific phrase: bravery does not equal accuracy.
Oof. That needs to be on a billboard. Brave, but inaccurate.
It's a terrifying combination. You have the engine revving at 100 miles an hour, but the GPS is hallucinating.
You feel brave enough to drive off a cliff because you're convinced the cliff is a bridge. So how do we troubleshoot this? If our internal GPS is glitching, what do we do? The source offers a litmus test for these impulses.
It's deceptively simple, but really hard to do when you're feeling that manic energy. The test is time.
Wait.
Wait a few hours. Wait 3 days. The source calls this distinguishing between a mood and a mission.
Okay.
A mood is a weather pattern. It comes in hot, it rains, there's thunder, and then it leaves. A mission is geology. It's a rock. It stays there when the storm passes.
And there's a specific question attached to this test, too, which I found really grounding.
What problem are we actually trying to solve?
Yes. That question cuts through the narcissism.
Yeah.
Neptune can be so self-absorbed, it's all about how I feel, my epiphany, my awakening.
Right.
But asking what problem am I solving forces you to look outside yourself. Are you quitting your job because you have a better way to serve the world and a plan to do it? Or are you quitting because you had a bad meeting and you want a dramatic exit scene?
Exactly.
This tension, the dramatic exit versus the real solution, is actually the core of the narrative piece in our source stack. I want to shift gears to this StoryScope. When the Fog Chose Fire.
Right.
It's unusual for us to dive into fiction, but this felt like it explained the vibe better than the data did.
This was a surprise in the research. Usually these analyses are dry charts. This is a full fictional narrative set in a city called Calyx.
Let's paint the picture for everyone. Calyx is described as a city of towers of glass and bone. It feels very sci-fi, but also ancient.
Yeah.
And the city is going through the reignition.
Which is the narrative equivalent of Neptune entering Aries. The city is humming with this weird frequency. People are walking off their jobs mid-shift because a fog has descended.
But it's not a sleepy fog.
No, it's an electric fog.
The text says, people woke with heads full of plans they could not quite remember. Courage surged ahead of understanding.
That line gave me chills. Courage surged ahead of understanding. That is the definition of a mob. That is the definition of a crusade. And in this city, Calyx, two figures emerge to lead the people.
First, we have the speaker.
The speaker is pure Neptune. Luminous robes, face hidden behind a veil of light. The speaker stands in the plaza of Accord and says, "We are finally awake. follow me, and we will build something truer.
And the crowd loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're starving for meaning. They want to be told that their boredom is actually a spiritual crisis that can be solved by, well, by burning down the old stuff.
The speaker offers performative spirituality. It feels good, it looks good on the broadcast, it promises a future without explaining the mechanics of how to build it.
It operates entirely on vibes.
Totally. But then there's the other character, Earl.
And Arl is a nobody, basically. Arl works in the Archive of Measures.
Which sounds like the Bureau of Standards and Weights. Not exactly the most exciting place to be during a revolution, but it's crucial. The archive holds the records of choices paid for in blood and regret. It's history. It's the receipts. And what's interesting is, Errol isn't immune to the fog. The story makes a point that Errol also feels the urge to run and shout and join in.
But resists.
But resists.
So the confrontation happens in the plaza. The speaker is whipping the crowd into a frenzy, promising a new world, and Errol steps up, the only person not cheering, and asks that question we just talked about.
What problem are we solving?
Right, and the speaker's response is the most dangerous line in the whole text. The speaker says, "We are solving the future."
It sounds so deep, but when you actually think about it for a second,
It means absolutely nothing.
it's a platitude. You can't solve the future. The future hasn't happened yet. You can only solve the present. But the crowd doesn't care about logic. They care about the feeling of release.
The feeling that destruction is the same as creation.
Yes.
So chaos breaks out, fires start, the city fractures. It feels like a civil war in a petri dish. But the turning point isn't a battle. It's what Errol does the next morning.
Errol goes back to the archive and drags out a mirror. But it's not a normal mirror. It's an archive mirror, a mirror of memory. And Errol just holds it up to the people.
And it doesn't show them as they are now, all dressed up in their revolutionary gear.
No. It reflects who you were when no one was watching. It reflects integrity or, the lack of it.
That is such a harsh reality check.
Oh.
It's easy to be a hero when everyone's watching and the music is swelling.
So easy.
It's hard to be a decent person when you're tired and alone and no one is clapping.
And that's the antidote the story proposes. The fog doesn't just vanish. The story ends with the city still scarred. But the text says, leaders emerged who listened as fiercely as they spoke, and faith began to walk on its own legs.
Instead of outsourcing their conscience to the guy in the shiny veil.
Precisely. The quote carved over the archive door at the end is just perfect. It says, what feels urgent is not always what is necessary.
And that brings us right back to the real world. We aren't in Calyx, we're in 2026. But the source material warns that we are entering a danger zone of crusades.
This is the sociological risks of Neptune in Aries, the zeal and appeal. We are going to see a rise in movements, political, environmental, religious, that demand total devotion.
And the topics might be good. That's the tricky part, right? It could be an anti-war movement or a movement for justice.
Right. The content isn't the problem. The energy is. The fight to the finish mentality. The idea that because my cause is righteous, I don't need to be practical, I don't need to listen to you, and I can burn down your house if you disagree.
That is how you get 1861.
Yep. The source calls for a battle of ideas, not a battle of fists.
Yep.
But when you're high on that Neptune fog, a fist feels a lot more satisfying than an idea.
Because an idea requires debate, nuance. A fist just requires force. And this leads to the leadership trap. The source has this opportunities and challenges breakdown for the next few years. Let's look at the bad leaders list. The challenges.
These are leaders who rely on myth rather than integrity. They are the speaker from the story. They offer simple villains, simple solutions. They encourage spiritual bypassing.
That's a term we hear a lot. But can you define it in this context?
Spiritual bypassing is using high-minded concepts to avoid doing the dirty work of actual psychological growth. It's saying everything happens for a reason, so you don't have to fix the leak in your roof.
Or following a guru so you don't have to make your own ethical choices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's using spirituality as a drug to numb yourself to reality.
The source calls these external mesmeric sources, which is a very polite way of saying cults of personality.
Or just the algorithm. I mean, the algorithm is the ultimate mesmeric source. It feeds you exactly what you want to believe, just reinforcing your fog.
But there are good leaders in the forecast, too. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yes. And you'll know them because they don't want your worship. They want your agency. They are visionary, yes, but they accept responsibility for the consequences of that vision. They're grounded.
They have that Saturn quality.
They have that Saturn quality of structure mixed with the Neptune vision.
So if I'm listening to this and I'm feeling that fog, How do I make sure I'm not becoming a casualty of my own enthusiasm? How do I navigate this without crashing the car?
We go back to stress testing.
Practical steps. What does stress testing a vision look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
It involves friction. If you have a brilliant idea, introduce friction to it. If you want to buy something expensive that you think will change your life,
Wait 72 hours.
wait 72 hours. If you want to post a manifesto online, write it in a Word doc and don't publish it.
Let it sit in the draft folder.
Exactly. If it's a mission, it will still feel urgent and necessary after the dopamine wears off. If it was a mood, you'll look at it 3 days later and think, wow, I was hungry and tired, and that makes no sense.
You mentioned Saturn as the taskmaster.
Yeah.
Can we just rely on Saturn to do this testing for us?
Oh, Saturn will do it for you whether you want it to or not. That's the warning. Any structure built on fantasy, fear, or blind faith is going to crack when Saturn arrives in mid-February.
So it's better to stress test it yourself now, rather than waiting for the universe to do it for you later.
Absolutely. Saturn respects lived truth. If your actions align with your deepest integrity, not your performative self, but your real self, Saturn actually solidifies that. It builds a foundation under your feet.
It's the difference between building a castle on a cloud and building it on a mountain.
A cloud is prettier, but a mountain holds up the roof.
A mountain hold up the roof. That's what we need.
Yeah.
This feels like a time where we have to be incredibly honest with ourselves, and that is so hard. It's much more fun to just get swept away.
It is. But getting swept away usually ends in a shipwreck. The goal of this deep dive is to keep you in the boat. You can still sail fast, you can still explore new oceans, but you need to be steering, not just drifting.
So let's bring it all home. Today is the day Neptune enters Aries. We are kicking off a 12-year cycle of high-octane idealism, potential conflict, and just massive energy.
And we have the historical precedent of the Civil War, a time of breaking and remaking. We have the upcoming arrival of Saturn to enforce the laws of physics and consequence.
We looked at the city of Calyx, reminding us that the speaker with the shiny veil isn't always right.
And the boring archivist with the mirror might have the real answer.
And we discussed the trap of the crusade, the danger of mistaking the adrenaline of a fight for the validity of a cause.
So true.
So, here's the challenge for the week. As you move through this foggy reboot, try to channel a little bit of Errol. When the group chat is blowing up or the newsfeed is screaming at you to pick a side right now, hit the pause button.
Hold up the mirror, ask yourself, am I acting because I want to build something real, or am I acting because I want to escape something uncomfortable?
We'll leave you with that final question from the source material. It's a question to keep in your pocket right next to your keys. When that urge strikes you this week, ask yourself,
Is this a mission, or is it only a mood?
thanks for diving deep with us. Keep your eyes on the road.
Stay grounded.